All right, why don't we get started? Everybody ready to get started here? We're on time, sort of. Um, if you just came in and you haven't read everything on here, let me give you a quick overview, but we'll come back to these. If you had a chance to download these apps, reason I want some people to do it so we could talk about it. Maybe not everybody will be able to get them on there. That's fine. Zapper app, any of the Merge Cube apps, Clever Books Geography. Also up top, and it's also in the presentation, but um, Merge just contacted me last week and wants me to do some ambassadorship stuff with them. So as a perk to us, they said they would do this for me. But they made a giveaway. So it's mergevr.com/VSTE. They're at the end of today, they're going to pick 3 of you to get a class pack. So it'll be the cubes and I think the goggles. But go to there and check it out, fill it out so you're part of that giveaway. Might as well, free stuff. So teachers love free stuff, right? I mean, that's who we are. We're all about the free stuff. If you're into back channeling, my Twitter's at Dr. Furman. Feel free to tag me on that stuff as well. It helps. Thank you. So how's everybody doing? This is like day 1, right? Day 1, session 1, very beginning. You're all still sober. You're all still probably not sleep deprived yet. That'll all change by tomorrow. I have done this conference a couple times. A couple years ago, actually, I did a keynote, and then I did some things with Keith, who's over there as well. My cousin's in the area. That's how I ended up starting here. Katie Bernadowski. Well, actually, it's not Bernadowski anymore, but she's down here. So that's how I ended up spending time with the VSTE folks. I'm actually from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And my name is Rob Furman, and I'm from South Park. I'm the elementary center principal at South Park, and it has nothing to do with the cartoon. Although, to make matters worse, I don't know anything about that cartoon, and my second child's name is Kyle. So I'm also Kyle's father and the principal at South Park. So that always gets a lot of laughs whenever I do these presentations. I have a tendency to get a little bombastic and crazy when it comes to education. Keith and I have done several videos called The Seditionists. I believe in the absolute need for total change education. As I've been on this journey, trying to figure out what that means and how we do that and all those type of things, I hooked up with the World Future Society. And the World Future Society is a group that works on making hypotheses and ideas and having discussions about what's the future going to look like. It's foresight is the term. So through that group, I sort of got really into educational futurism and really taking in-depth looks at what's this going to all look like in the future. And they're interesting conversations, and a lot of it is possible, probable, and expected. So what are we pretty sure is going to happen? What do we hope is going to happen? What's a limited chance of it happening? And through all of that, this is one part of what we've come up with that's very much going to be the next huge impact on educational technology, not necessarily the whole overarching need for change, but definitely one aspect of it. And every time I've done recent presentations, I start with this, just to sort of put you in the mindset of someone who we need to look at change in education. So this is you. I know it's been me. Does this look like a very typical classroom to a lot of you? Probably a lot of you sat in a classroom like that. There may be some of you that teach in classrooms that still look like that. And it's interesting and not necessarily good or bad, but that started a long time ago. It started with a committee of 10 in 1892. And I feel badly because out of that picture, one guy only got a gravestone. So he will forever be known as the gravestone guy out of the committee of 10. But anyways, they got together and they said, what are we going to do? How are we going to make this whole thing called education? You know, we want to get out of the idea of the one-room schoolhouse. We want to get out of the idea and sort of standardize and create this group. And they only had really 3 organizations to do that with: the jail, the factory, and the church. Those were the 3 main organizational bodies that they had at the time. So that's what they were picking and choosing from. So let's start with the jail. What did they pull from the jail, do you think? Well, procedures That's what we still use, right? To this day, we use their procedures. Walk in a straight line, stay to the right of the hall, stay quiet. That's jail. That's not a bad thing. I'm not saying that in a negative way, like all schools are jails, maybe. But what I'm saying is that's where the concept came from. Compliance. We are a compliant organization. Looks very much like it still does today. And that came from the jail. And there's other things that we get from the jail. You got to think it's interesting when you talk about educational futurism, because we actually look a lot into the past to see where we came from so that we know where we're going, right? So how about yard time? Who ever thought that no one said, oh, kids need recess. Where'd that come from? Came from the jail. We call it recess. They call it yard time. And then my favorite, can't forget about the yearbook. Again, it was an idea that had to come from somewhere, right? How about the factory? And you've all heard this one, I'm sure, multiple times. We get the idea of standardization. Everything has to be standardized. Everything has to come out looking the same. How many here are into personalized learning? How many here think it's important that we look at personalized learning? Then every one of you should throw out the standards, because how can we call something standard and personalized at the same time? It doesn't work. You can't use the same terms at the same time, but yet we do. That was taken like 6 months ago. So we're really not changed a whole lot from 1892. Remember, 1892, Committee of 10. The assembly line, of course, similar, huh? Then we have the church. That's the third organization. Can anybody imagine in your head, think about what do you think we received from church? Instructional practice, right? As a priest, I stand here, kind of like what we're doing right now. I stand here. I have the knowledge, and I'm only going to give you what I feel you can handle. And you're not really allowed to do much about it. You sit and listen. I stand and talk. It's the lecture. It's the instructional practice. We still do it to this day. So when we start looking at all of these things from where we've came from, where we are now, it's a little nerve-wracking that we still look like we did when they created us in 1892. But yet, we still do a lot of these things, but we need that idea of a change, the idea of the educational revolution. So when we think about revolution and what's really been major changes, first thing comes is technology, right? Then we look at something like this. And this starts to give us futurism path. I apologize, I'm hacking like a crazy person. This starts to give you the idea of how are we going to see what's going to happen in the future with just a very simple graphic like this. Radio, TV, projection screen or projector, DVD player, laptop computer. What do all these things have in common besides the obvious that they're all technology? But what do these all have in common? Have you ever had one of those in your classroom? For those of you that maybe taught, what, 40 some years ago, maybe we did. How about a TV? How about a projector? How about a DVD player? Yeah. How about a laptop computer? Just one even. This is so uncommon now because it was so common, what, 40 years ago. But as we go through here, I remember, maybe some of you that are older remember, not having this in the classroom. Not having that, not really even having that. I had this for 25 years. So as we move through this technology, at one point in our lifetime, this was novel. This was something new to have in our classroom. Now, I just threw away 50 of those in my building because we don't use them anymore. We don't even have DVDs anymore. This, when I was first teaching, was sent from God. Now every classroom has one. This was unheard of. Then from here, what do we go to? What do we go to when we had one computer, maybe just the teacher? Then maybe we had 3 computers that we put in the back of the room for the kids who could really do something special with them. Then we went to maybe a class set. Holy shit, I got a class set of computers. That was like amazing. Now, many schools give one to a single kid, right? Think as a futurist. Very soon, this will be this. So our question as educational futurist in technology is, what comes after this? How many people have a smartboard? When I started, there was no such thing as a smartboard. Now, it's almost common. It's not really that exciting anymore. Like when we first got it, it was like, woo! Now it's, if I don't have one, there's something wrong. So what comes after this? Well, what I'm suggesting, and what I think a lot of people would agree, is that what's going to be coming next is the whole idea of augmented reality, virtual reality, artificial intelligence. We will probably, like we're giving away, eventually the idea of every kid having goggles and an AR unit at their desk is going to be common. It's going to eventually, over years and years, become like that radio, probably. But right now, it's what's novel. Right now, it's the smartboard of 15 years ago. Right now, it's like if I have one in my classroom for a kid to do something, I'm really excited about it. And that too will become eventually, over time, common. To our advantage is we're on the cutting edge of it right now. If you look at it, learn it, and deal with it now, especially you youngins who are going to be at this game for another 20 years, 30 years, by the time this becomes common, you'll be an expert at it. But you can't start 10 years from now, because then all the kids are blowing by you. So what is the difference between AR, VR, and AR? I've done this presentation. This is one of my newest presentations, and I just started doing it probably about 4 months ago. And when I first started, I didn't realize that those 3 terms, because I took them for granted, not everybody really understood them. Do you guys understand what the differences of those are? Some of you, I'm sure, do. So we're going to go over them very briefly. Virtual reality is when you immerse the user fully into the digital environment. So you are no longer in these 4-walled reality. You are in a whole alternate universe. Think Minecraft. That's usually the most, a lot of teachers can wrap their head around. There's other ones that have been out there, Second Life. Second Life's now making a new one called Sansar, and things like that. But just to wrap your head around it, Second Life. Or I mean, Minecraft. The Sims was probably one of the first ones. You know, back when we were younger, that was the whole idea of virtual reality. So you're immersing yourself completely into a different reality. So have anybody ever used any of these? Second Life, Minecraft, the HTC Vive is a new thing. The Google Cardboard, where you stick the goggles on and it's all the way around you. Oculus, which is I think the expensive version of that stuff. Raise your hand if you've had some limited, at least. Good. Okay, so the artificial intelligence. This is an interesting one. And I had a really interesting conversation with one of the gurus in this whole artificial intelligence world about the idea of how would that infuse into a classroom. Because obviously in the back of our minds, we're thinking, all right, is this robot going to take over my job someday? You know, we're not there yet, so you're safe. But there is a lot that these things can do. There's a lot of understanding. Anything dealing with facts, figures, date times, math equations, things like that, this thing's got it. What it's not able to do yet is to do the why. It could do the who, what, when, where type thing really well. But when it gets into the why and the idea of like strategy and understanding, all of the empathy, all those type of elements, no, it doesn't have that. So that's where we have to always be involved with this, regardless of what other people may say in terms of artificial intelligence. It's got the facts and dates and all that stuff really well. When it gets into the human factor of empathy, understanding, those type of things, not so much. Then we have the augmented reality, which is, it's a blending of virtual and real. So I could take my phone and set it right here in this blank space, and I can put a tiger right there, and I can look through my phone and actually see the tiger. About 3 or 4, maybe 5 years ago, morning about this amazing video called Glass, the future of glass or something like that. Anybody see that? Probably it was got fairly common there for a while. And they were doing this crazy stuff where they were looking through their glass tablets and seeing a dinosaur jump out at them as they were walking through the woods. And everybody was looking at that going, whoa, that's really crazy. We could do that stuff now fairly easily. Back then when the video first came out, it was like, wow, that's really novel. Now we could do it. We could do a lot of that stuff. Maybe not at that big a level, but the concepts are there. So it's really interesting to watch the things that excited us 5 years ago just becoming part of our everyday life now. Okay, so if you use any of the augmented reality systems in the room, I know you have. You've done a lot with it. Raise your hand, augmented reality stuff, anything? Cool. And we're going to talk about some of that. And I'm not the expert necessarily here, so if you guys have things, I know William's amazing when it comes to Unity. I'm going to have him actually talk about it a little bit in a moment here. But I want you to give us the ideas. We're all in this together. So, you know, if you have ideas, we need to share it out there for all of our sakes. Okay, so let's get into some of these classroom concepts. What I'm going to do is I'm going to lay out several different augmented reality, virtual reality type of systems that you could take home with you and start looking at in terms of your classroom. If I reach one that you know about, when Unity hits, I want you to talk about it. Are you already doing stuff in your classrooms with these things? That's part of the whole process here is we want to share ideas out, not only what's out there, but what do you do with it when you have it? Like, what are we going to do in the classroom to make this thing a meaningful educational experience? One thing that I'm really not a fan of is using technology just for a cool factor. It's nice, it's fun, but we don't have time to play cool factors. We got to educate. If we're using these things for a purpose to teach something that we necessarily can't do any other way or whatever the case may be, that's different than just, hey, look, this is really cool. I can hold a virtual human heart in my hand. Okay, well, fine, but what are you teaching me? So, CoSpaces. Anybody familiar with CoSpaces? Raise your hand way up high so we know what we're dealing with here. Okay, CoSpaces, you can create your own virtual worlds. You can then take these virtual worlds, put them into the goggles. You could put them on the merge cube, which we'll talk about later. It's very user-friendly, very simple. You're not going to get the quality that you would in like other programs, but for kids to create quickly, easily, it's a fairly simple system. You could see CoSpaces EDU is the free version. Most of the stuff I'm talking about is free or inexpensive because I know none of us can afford big stuff. Some of it's got a little learning curve and some of it's got some cost curve to it. I'll leave it up to you to decide what things you want to play with. But anyways, CoSpaces can create a virtual reality system. What do we do with that in a classroom? I'm going to wait and have William talk to us about that in a moment here in terms of the Unity system, which is also similar. You can also create augmented reality in here and use them on platforms like the Merge Cube, which we'll show in a moment. Unity, you're the man, so it's like there's no use of me talking about it. Tell some people about what we do with this thing. I don't know if you realize it, but you've got like the guru in the state here when it comes to Unity.
My name is Bill Schmackenberg. I want to tell you guys, I'm a teacher first and foremost. I've been doing it for 30 years in the classroom, teaching earth science, and I started a computer club, a Unity club in my school, because I was really excited about the school. It's one that's very well known. And in the last couple of years we've been doing it, I talked with Rob Furman about this back in 2014. He's the only keynote group that I remember 4 years ago. And I remember Rob sitting down with me, and I was still in the mindset of standardized testing. Oh, we've got to make multiple choice tests. Kids ready for it. He said, "No, Bill, it's not about that at all. Your number one goal is getting kids being creative." And I said, "You're right." All right. And that's when I got more and more into the Unity Club and download it and get it for free. Okay, on a personal computer. If you want to use it in your school, you have to fill out a request. Like a 5-minute thing. Guy out in California, and I can tell you about that. Just your school, how many computers you want, and so on. Since we started the Unity Club, we won 2 congressional act competitions with it. We won 2 VSTE competitions with it. I had one student that got so sucked into it that she created a Europa simulation and just got into NASA Bass. She's going to be showing it off in about a year at NASA Langley. I had another student that's interested in geology, and we were contacted by the National Park Service last summer. The centennial for the Grand Canyon is going to be next year, and they've asked us to do the official software for that, and I'll be demonstrating the prototype of that tomorrow at 11 o'clock with the headsets, Oculus Rift, all of that. So it's really taken off. The students are really getting into it. What I really like about Unity, there is a learning curve to it. What I've done is I've come up with a primer that I use with my students. I'll be happy to email anybody in the room that wants it to get you up. Unlike, I've gone through all the technical stuff for you guys. I've sat through hundreds of pages learning this system so that you don't have to. I've come up with a primer that gets you started in 5 or 10 minutes. You'll be making a game in Unity. You'll be making a simulation in Unity with just simple controls and so on. That I've done with my club. In fact, I don't even teach anymore. I give them the primer and have students do that. What's really cool about Unity also is once you build in there, you don't have to worry about all the technical parts of Unity. You just go into something called build settings. You click one button, boom, it creates the software for you, and you're ready to run on the rep. And so what I'm going to be showing you guys today is software that was developed by teachers and students, not commercial developers. In fact, the first year we did it, we had a student make a racing game in Unity. We did a Mars simulation in Unity. It is a very cool tool. It's used by millions of developers, and for some reason, it's been totally overlooked by the educational community, and it's sort of sad. Although I did notice there's one other school in Norfolk that's starting to use it, which is really cool. So check us out tomorrow. The one thing the question I would ask, since you've given me, you made a mistake there. I could go on for hours talking about this. The one question I would ask towards an administrator and also someone like yourself is that I had all the student work set up, and we did a work day where I invited my administrator, superintendent, so on, come on in. This is not my work, this is my students' work. And not one person showed up. Wow. And I was shocked because if I said my students did artwork and it's on the wall, come in, every one of them would have showed up. But when they heard virtual reality, when they heard Unity, they didn't. And I think the perception from central office is that it's a game, that it's not a serious educational tool. And I guess my question to you, and maybe back there, is how do we overcome this perception among decision makers that this is a serious tool for virtual reality in the future, and it's not the kids who are just playing games?
And I will give you an answer to that. Because it's not just virtual reality, it's everything we want to do new when it comes to education. We're always in that upward battle to get new things in, to get exciting things in. Anything that's cutting edge seems to be scary, but like the Unity. The best thing to do is educate them, educate your community, educate your board of directors, educate other members in the community, almost like I don't want to say sidestep them, but if your community is really into it, they're going to have no choice but to get into it. And PR. I mean, something like that is huge when it comes to public relations and educators. We're in a world of public relations now. We never were before. But now when you're fighting cyber schools and private schools and charter schools, and I mean, it's a market now. So we need to be able to tell people the exciting things that we're doing out there. Positive public relations is a good thing. That's what I would do. I mean, I would say, look, here's a day, and if you don't want to come, that's fine. I'll invite some parents in. They'll get the buzz rolling, that type of thing. Okay, so let's move on. Tour Builder. Am I familiar with this one? This is a fairly common one. This is pretty cool. It's a VR AR type of concept. The neat thing with this is you could take Google Earth and you can put points like a tour somewhere on the Earth, and then for each point you put information, images, videos, whatever in there. So what I saw a teacher do, which I thought was pretty cool, is she focused in on, I think it was the Mississippi River with Mark Twain, and they were putting points down the river where different things happen in the book. So as they were reading the book afterwards, they'd go and watch this, and they would read and actually see it, because you're on Google Earth, so you could see the images. It was a really cool lesson. But anything dealing with history or literature where it's in a certain location or any of that kind of stuff would be really cool use with this tour builder. Very, very easy to use. Very easy to use. Okay, Zapper. This is sort of the new QR code, I guess you could say, and it's a very augmented reality system, which is really fun. Did anybody actually get the Zapper app downloaded? All right, so let's try it here. That is a Zapper app. You notice it looks similar to a QR code type of concept, but what it does is it actually overlays whatever you've told that app to do. So on mine, when you look at that, you're going to see a bunch of circles revolving and floating in the air. One's my website, one's my podcast, one I think Keith, you and I is one of our YouTube things. You can actually have videos pop out of the sky. Anything you put on there is gonna become this augmented reality concept right in front of you. Anybody get to work? Raise your hand if you got it to work. Some of you did. Good. And because of Wi-Fi and everything else, you may not all be able to jump on at the same time, type of thing. The way I used this in my school 2 years ago. I made several of those, and I put it around the building for our open house. And I told my parents in advance to download the app. So as they were walking through the building, they would zap one, and a video would come out of me talking about wherever they were in the building. So then they could keep walking, and it'd be like this like floating image of me on their phone as they're walking down and looking at all the different things. So I basically created a augmented reality tour of my building through this, which was pretty fun. It was pretty cool. I've seen teachers use this for scavenger hunts, where they'll put the app, the zaps around the room or something like that, and they'll get it. And when it pops up, it'll be some sort of math problem or something like that they have to work through. Just sort of think of it as the QR code of the future. That's pretty much what it is. The only difference is it won't take you anywhere. It'll actually bring it augmented right through your device, whatever the device may be. They do claim, although I won't hold you to this, because it has not worked for me yet, but they do claim you can use this on Chromebook, because we're a one-on-one building with Chromebook, but I've not been able to get that to work. We're using our iPads that we also have right now, and I know it works on the iPad. So I can't promise the Chromebooks yet. They claim it's working and they'll get it working, but I do know it works on the iPads, and it works on all the phones. Every phone we've used so far, it's been able to work. Did everybody get it who wanted to see what it looks like? Everybody who wants to see it? Yes? Okay, 3, 2, 1. You good? You're still holding your phones up, but you're saying you're good. I'm not sure which the two. You good? Did you get it? Here, come up. Walk up. Walk up closer. She's like, I'm good. Don't make me walk. All right, we're going to move on. This is another idea. And there's several of these. This is the one for Cleverbooks. So if you got the Cleverbook, you can try that and focus on, you have to pick continents and then focus in on that. This is actually supposed to be laid flat on a desk so you could see the things on it. So when you look at it, don't get too confused. A lot of these things are becoming this, get a piece of paper, do something with the paper, and it sort of jumps out. What's it? Quiver has coloring pages where you can color, the little kids can color it, and you look through it and it comes to life in the colors that they colored it. That's been around for a while. Now they're starting to get more academic. What this is, you're fine. What this is you use the app. It sees the country, and then it comes up in 3D, augmented. You can hit buttons on the right to show where the wildlife. You can hit another button; it'll show you where the famous cities and areas and monuments, and it'll show weather patterns, all kinds of cool stuff. Anybody seeing it? All right, if you're seeing it and you want to walk around, if you want to jump behind somebody, we're all in this together. Feel free to jump behind somebody that has one that's working if you can't see it. And this is nice. And the reason I like this one is because when you talk about something colorific, people look and go, oh, that's very elementary. Having kids color it, okay, cool. Where's the educational value? This is something that's like purely educational value. I mean, it makes a big difference from a cool factor of a coloring book to something that's obviously academic in nature, where you're talking about this continent and you could see the weather patterns on it and the animals and all sorts of different things as you're playing with that. If I'm going too fast, please ask me to slow down. If you want to have any of these, email me, call me, text me. You've got my card, and I'll send you that graphic. If you go to Cleverbooks, I can give you the website, cleverbooks.com. They have a whole primer pack. So there's that's just one of several different things that are in there. They also want you to start doing some creative stuff as well. And that's where we have to, I guess, pause for a moment and think about the idea that there's a lot of people making things out there for us. But again, like I told you 4 years ago, and I still believe it to this day, getting kids to create is so much more important, because that's one of our digital age standards that we talk about. Digital age skill is the idea of being creative. Have them build these things. And most of these groups, like the Unities, the Co-Spaces, they give the kids the option of creating their own stuff, which is far more important, and you're going to have far more of a learning factor than just giving them a worksheet with this. I am not a fan of worksheets. Anybody that's ever heard me talk, no, I despise the idea of a worksheet. I think it's just a cop-out to not want to do work. So what did we do whenever we got rid of the worksheets? We threw them up on a smart board, right? Now it's a worksheet on a smart board. That's technology. We're good. No, it's not. No. So then what we do, I say, okay, well, we won't use a smart board. We'll put them on the device. So now we all have one-on-one devices. Now we all have our worksheet on the computer. Still a damn worksheet, people. Now they're making 3D augmented reality worksheets. Not sure I'm a fan. I like the idea of using the technology to enhance their learning. To me, it's just still sort of a really cool worksheet. I would rather you have the kids create these, which they let you do, than just use other people's stuff. Anything you do. I tell you, the best way to make a worksheet is have a kid create the worksheet. Now, all of a sudden, it turns the whole concepts upside down. Have them create stuff. You're going to make so much of a difference in their world. And I could prove it to you. You want me to prove it to you? Here, I'm going to prove it to you right now. Raise your hand if you remember when you were in elementary, middle, high school, a really cool lesson a person did. When I was in school in 5th grade, we did a simulation day of colonial America. We had to dress like it. The teachers dressed like that. We ate the food. It was pretty wild. Tell me any good ones. Research a part. Awesome. That's the kind of stuff you remember, isn't it? Anybody else? Go ahead.
As like a very famous person, like to the T, and had to like give a presentation. We had to act like them.
That's cool.
And I loved it.
That's awesome. Anybody else? Give me one.
It's great. We were able to houses.
Oh, wow. Very cool. Excellent. Anybody else? Go ahead. Either one.
3rd grade dissected a squid from the fish market.
Oh.
And cooked it and ate it.
Ooh. Yes, awesome. Ooh, sort of gross.
In 2nd grade, we wrote stories and we made books and we illustrated them. We had parents that came and actually made a hardcover book with us.
Of your book. Oh.
Yeah, like wallpaper, we put in a cover.
That's awesome. Very cool. Raise your hand if you remember the best damn worksheet you ever did in high school or middle school or elementary school. Point taken. You're not looking at that worksheet going, damn, that's a good worksheet. Like, look at the amount of space I have here to do my work. And I mean, the font is really good. Nobody does that. Wouldn't you rather your kids have things that they remember? But yeah, we do a lot more worksheets than we do these other things because it's easy. It's easier to toss a worksheet on than to create something like those type of projects. But it's easy and quick. That's right. Okay, Q-Long. This is wild. I'm out of water. Q-Long is pretty wild. What you could do with this is you download this little piece of paper here. It's this thing. And you put any object on that. And then you use the app and it 3D renders that object. So let's say you've got a little Spider-Man action figure laid in the center there. They're obviously doing an elephant. You use the app with that piece of paper, you spin your phone around it, all of a sudden you have a 3D rendered object on your cell phone in augmented reality. The nice thing is, then you take that and you can put it on your merge cube. Can I see a merge cube? When I talk about merge cubes, everybody know what a merge cube is? It's this thing right here. I'll show a little video on it in a minute here. The merge cube, all it is a foam ball, I mean a foam square. But I guess it was about 6 months ago, Walmart had an influx of these. And they were selling them for $7 a piece, and they thought there was nothing but, no one was gonna buy a stupid piece of foam for $7. So they went on sale for $1 a shot. Teachers went nuts. I was all over Twitter, all over. They were going. I even did it myself. I went to my Walmart and I took the shelf and I went. I bought every one of them for $100. I had now I got 6 class sets of these things. Okay, but what are they? What they are is it's like another version of a QR code, but it becomes 3-dimensional. We'll show you that in a moment here. You could take that elephant. I'm sorry, I'm gonna get back. You could take that elephant, 3D render it, or turn it into that 3D image that I was talking about, put it into the merge cube, and I can, with my camera, look at this cube and it'll turn into that elephant. So I'm holding the elephant in my hand. Then, what's that? Directions? For which one? Yeah, there's videos out there. Merge has all this stuff. So here's the merge cube. Let me just show you a video. There's the giveaway. Anybody have a chance to do that yet? Okay, I hope you guys get some good stuff. So I want to see if we can. Don't worry about the audio. I want you just to watch what it is. So they're holding the cube, but it turns into, in terms of an augmented system, what it is. So they've got the Earth there. That guy's holding a square. There's the dog was trying to eat the solar system. So that's what Merge Cube does. It turns that square into a virtual artifact. Does that make sense? The goggles that you see that girl wearing, there's no advantage to that unless you want to have 2 hands. So the only difference is if you want to look at it through your phone, holding your phone, or you put your phone in the goggles. So now you got 2 hands. That's the only difference to the goggles. You can use any goggles. You can use any goggles. So I think this is the one that I want to. Yeah, hold on. See if you can watch through this. And I just want to have a little conversation about how, again, the idea that this tech can be helpful. Yeah, who's that? Right. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. An object to get it right. And this thing is doing it like that.
Yeah.
They've already pre-built them.
Oh, yeah.
It's very idea how this actually works, how the companies make these things.
What's that?
How they actually do, how do you go from a static 2D image of an elephant to...
You're asking me? No idea how it works. I don't know how stuff works. All I know is I like it. It's pretty cool. I know the process, like that Qlon. I don't know how the back end works, but you make it becomes a file. The file relates with merge. There's a place. Remember you were saying there's a code you get. She was doing it behind you. There's a code you get. You put it in, and you hold it up, and it works. I have no idea how it works. It's amazing, but it works. And that's sort of the interesting thing about how many of you guys got into the Pokemon Go craze there for a little while. People thought, oh, that's a really awesome game, and oh my God, that's so cool. But very few times do we stop and go, that is remarkable technology. I mean, the amount of tech stuff going into that, just ridiculous. We're taking a lot of that for granted now. Very much like we take, just like when I pointed that radio to and y'all went, what's that thing? You know, eventually this will become that too. But right now, the tech that these people are pulling off is simply just remarkable. That I have no idea how most of it works. All I know is it works and it's really cool, and you can learn a lot from this stuff, which I'm hoping you'll do. So anyways, let's look at this thing. This is kind of interesting. This is an arc for special needs kids. And they're using the idea of augmented reality to get into the idea of some empathy and things like that. It's kind of interesting. Oh, you can't hear her talking, but they're using these blocks. You can see there's different kids on there, and you get audio on it too. You can get audio. The way it's working for these kids, it's really cool. It's an interesting system for kids that I guess was sort of unexpected that they would have this type of outcome. So I would suggest, if you're into working with those type of kids, to go on the YouTube, go to Merge VR. There's lots of videos for this kind of stuff. Again, I was surprised when I ran into it, pleasantly surprised, that this type of outcome was coming through with this augmented reality stuff. Has anybody seen? There was a oh, hello, that's me. Look at that. Pretty cool, huh? There was a app out there that was dealing with this whole thing of empathy, and you'd watch the child on there, and you'd have to make decisions on what you were going to do to either help or not help and stuff like that. And this is sort of the next level of that in terms of kids helping kids. It's really pretty crazy. It's pretty cool. I'm looking at the time. How much time do we have left? 10 minutes? 15? Okay, we're going to breeze through some of these people. You could see there's some more of those merge cube type of things in there, but I want to save a couple minutes for the last conversation. These are a lot of different colleagues, several colleagues of mine that talked about the AR and VR. None of this is like over the top concepts. I think, especially with my experience with Virginia teachers, you guys are like on the ball. I've always been really pleasantly surprised with the quality of teachers you have here. So I don't think any of this is magic in terms of the obviousness of, let them do things. Don't tell them, show them, get them involved in it, get their hands dirty. Don't just throw things at them, no worksheets, that type of thing. Let them be the creator of the content. This lady talks forever. I'm going to go through some of this here. Electronic field trips, those things are very common now. Oh, I remember I wanted to mention too. Have you guys seen the new augmented reality T-shirt that's out? It's pretty wild. Do I have any science teachers here? Any biology teachers? Anything like that? Do you familiar with this T-shirt? What's that? Yeah, do you have one? Oh, they're crazy. You put this T-shirt on, and it's got pretty much a QR code looking thing, like all these ARs, right on your chest. Then you get the iPad and you look at the person, and their chest opens up and all their stuff is inside. Yeah. Have you ever used it? Tell them about it, because it's really pretty wild. Yeah, and what a difference from a kid's perspective, looking that way versus looking at a bulletin board. The idea of it being actually real time and right there, and I mean the level of interest certainly skyrockets. Right, that's a pretty cool. It's called Virtual T, right? That's Virtual Ala T. Yeah, you can look them up online; they're everywhere. So, anyways, this is a pretty cool guy. I like Michael. The pedagogy before technology, that's a critical statement. I think we've said that a couple times here already. Let's make sure we're not just doing things just for the cool factor. The cool factor can get you started. That's okay, certainly. But let's not just leave it there. Let's go beyond to remember our pedagogy always has to come first. PLNs, obviously something you can work through with some of this stuff together. Get some student leaders. There's students out there that are probably doing some heavy duty stuff that you're not even aware of. Some Minecraft thing kids do are remarkable, you know, and don't be so prideful that you can go to a kid and say, can you show me that? Can you show our class that? Like, I'm okay with that. You know more than I do. I don't care if you're 10 years old or 18 years old. If you got something to share, let's do it. You had a hand up?
A lot of times it's also the time nature, not just whether or not it's tied to the standards or whatever, but the time nature, it takes so much time. But I do have them go in, log in, create something with symmetry. And I spent 10 minutes showing them what 3-dimensional symmetry is. And it was phenomenal to start these people creating. But yeah, it's getting past that time factor. Creating things,
And yet you're absolutely right. You got to learn how to do it before you can really jump to that next level. One thing that you said that was interesting with the whole idea of hitting the standards, which you already know my opinion of that term from the beginning, but the idea of hitting these standards there with a little bit of creativity and okay, we'll go with a healthy amount of risk. You can take pretty much any standard and use a variety of tech to teach it. I'm not sure if it's as much the fact that we can't do it is that I think we're afraid to do it. And that's okay. I mean, I think that's normal, especially with, you know, like what Will said, if I brought in all this tech, if I brought in these merge queues, I'm doing stuff with my kids, and my principal comes in who has no understanding of this, no appreciation of it, maybe very traditional, and goes, what are you doing? Then you're like, maybe I should have just stuck with the worksheet. That's what he knows. I'm comfortable. You know, comfortable, you got to get out of that comfort zone. And what I tell my teachers, and I hope yours tell your teachers sometimes, is, you know, close the door and teach. If you get the results, I don't think there's a principal out there that's going to care how you did it. So if it's the matter of taking the time to do it, like you said, but you take these texts and you take your standards and you could teach this stuff. I could teach forces of motion in a virtual reality system that has physics. There's a lot of stuff I could do with that. Does it take me time to do it? Yes. Am I going to get paid to do it? Probably not. Should I do it because I'm a teacher and I want to do what's best for the kids? Absolutely. You're here on a Sunday, right? I don't think you're probably getting paid for this day to be here, but you're here because you want to be better at this. Well, if you want to be better at this, this is what you have to do. You got to dig in, just like Will did 4 years ago. He said, I like this Unity thing. I'm going to dive in head first. You have to that's what you got to do. And there's a lot of ways to do it in cyber classes and courses online, and you can do it. Is your district going to pay you to do it? Probably not. Should you do it to learn something, to learn a tool to help your kids? Absolutely. All right, CoSpaces, Google Tour Creator Merge. Okay, so here's what I want to spend the last couple minutes on. I want you to kind of go with me into the future a little bit. I started my presentation talking about educational futurism, and I talked about where we were in the past and where we are now. And we talked a little bit about where we may be going in the future with this AR and VR. Okay, so we need to take a moment as futurists, and we have to sort of think about all of this data that I just gave you, which is really all I was doing, was just giving you some info. And then we got to we don't use the word prediction in futurism. We talk about a foresight, something that we could think would probably, possibly, or conditionally happen in the future. Usually as an educational futurist, we don't do anything less than minimal would be 10, and that's pushing it, 10 years. Usually we talk 25, 50 years out. That's a very traditional time frame. But let's just go with 10, because really time flies so quickly that I think 10 years is realistic. So 10 years from now. Now think about this. Seniors this year there was no such thing as an iPad or an iPhone or streaming Netflix services when they were in elementary school. So that's how fast things just moved in 12 years. So 10 years from now, here's what I'm thinking. Here's what the educational futurists are thinking. It's going to be common at your desk to have some sort of augmented reality and virtual reality device attached to you. Now, it sounds sort of dystopian. Every kid's sitting there with a big helmet on, like an astronaut helmet. Think, they're all sitting there. No, don't think of it that way, because don't worry, you're in there too. You've got all the kids. They've got their good goggles on. You as a teacher do as well, and you are all equally transformed into, let's go with ancient Rome. Okay, so now, even though we're all sitting in the classroom, we have our goggles on, you as the teacher, us as the students, we are all seeing each other, and we're in ancient Rome. And as we're walking through, there might be an AI conversation going on through our headphones, talking about what we're seeing as we're actually walking through the Colosseum. And we won't get into haptic and kinetic stuff, but maybe you could even bend down in the near future and pet that cat, because they've got cats all over the Colosseum, if you've ever heard about the cats of the Colosseum. Okay. But as you're walking through, you're hearing this AI person talk about this. And the student asks a question. Why were they making them fight? AI is not good with the idea of why. So that's why you're there as the teacher together. And you can answer the why. And you could talk about the empathy and how this was probably a bloody mess, but yet even at the time, the audience was maybe enjoying it in fear as much as in bloodlust. There's two different things there. And you as the teacher are having that conversation with your kids in this virtual reality room in the Colosseum. And then you go through, and then all of a sudden you see a spear leaning up against the wall of the Colosseum. And the kid's like, oh, that's pretty cool. Okay, kids, well, let's go back to the classroom. Okay, take her off. Now they're back in the classroom. Let's get your augmented reality glasses out. Different than the big helmet, because the big helmet needs 3D. These are just like reading glasses. Just put on your reading glasses. You pick up a merge cube type of device. It'll be much more elaborate then. And now all of a sudden, every kid's holding that spear that they saw in the Colosseum. And they can look at it and they can move it around and see, wow, that's pretty wild, because now they're holding the artifact in their hand. A simulation of the artifact. They can look at the inscription. They can see the details of the wood. Then they put that down and their day's over. How far-fetched do you think that is? I could tell you, I could promise you this time right now, within 10 years, I guarantee you that's common. That's going to be common practice. That's what you're going to see. So that's why you need to start with these small things now. This may seem big. In 10 years, this is going to be the radio. And that's the reality of our technology. So we got to stay up on it. We got to stay excited about it now, because crazier things are coming. The more and more exciting it gets, it's a great, crazy world out there. And I can't wait to someday be able to get in my driverless car and say, bring me to VSTE, and I'm just going to lay back in the back and let it drive me here.
I was awarded a grant to look at a lot of VR technology. What I'm finding is that when I use STEAM, it's hard to find educational resources. So are there groups right now that are developing a cohort of educational resources that are both safe and directly applicable? Because I'm just struggling to find the content I want.
Yeah, if you contact me, I'll get you in touch with a load of people. Discovery has a great group. Merge has a group of teachers that are heavily involved with each other. Actually creating a resource bank of lesson plans right now that you can grab all their lesson plans too. So yeah, just contact me and I'll get you in contact with them. Okay, that's it. I don't think I put my, no, I forgot to put my contact information on this. I love it. Oh, believe me, Keith, am I ready for this?
Put the VR back. Put the VR back. I think what we're really going to see soon, and not 10 years, but a couple of years down the road, is people putting on goggles like that. And you talked about Rome. We're going to be talking about where people put on the Rome expedition, and you'll see somebody there from Rome, okay, that's an expert on the Roman Empire, okay, who will then run the lesson for you. And that's not a dream, that's happening today.
A lot of that
happens like
happens now.
Second Life.
Yeah.
We do it routinely for professionals. It's going to happen in the
absolutely.
well.
So you weren't disagreeing with me. You were just enhancing my vision.
Both
You were increasing my foresight. That's perfect.
Right.
So instead of it being an AI person, it'll be a person right there doing it. Absolutely. That's great. And right, there is a lot of that now. There's a lot of virtual field trips and stuff out there now. It's yeah, it's
We're used to texting and it just doesn't work in VR. You
No.
can put a keyboard in there, but it's a pain.
yeah,
The secret is Vivox and talking rather than
Absolutely.
for communication rather than texting.
yes. Thank you, everybody. If anyone wants to get in contact with me, I don't have my business card. I have them up here. Feel free to grab one. And thank you. I appreciate you guys coming.